Once upon a time, nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling river, lay a small, forgotten village. The land was barren, the soil was dry, and the trees had long since vanished. The villagers had grown used to the dust and the heat, their memories of a green and vibrant past fading like an old photograph. But in this village lived a young boy named Leo. Unlike the others, Leo held onto the stories his grandmother told him, tales of a time when the village was a lush paradise, shaded by a vast, cool forest. One sweltering afternoon, while exploring the dusty attic of his small home, Leo stumbled upon a small wooden box. He blew away a thick layer of dust and opened it. Inside, resting on a bed of faded velvet, was a single tiny seed. It was dark and smooth, and as Leo held it in his palm, it seemed to hum with a secret energy. His grandmother, seeing what he'd found, smiled a wistful smile. That, she said, her voice a soft whisper, is the last seed from the great forest. It holds the memory of all the trees that once stood here. A spark ignited in Leo's heart. He looked at the seed, then out at the desolate landscape. An idea as small and as powerful as the seed itself took root in his mind. The next morning, before the sun had even risen, Leo took the seed, a small shovel, and a bucket of precious water. He walked to the highest hill overlooking the village, a place where the wind blew relentlessly. He dug a small hole in the hard, cracked earth. It was difficult work. The ground fought back, but Leo was determined. He gently placed the seed inside, covered it with soil, and gave it a drink from his bucket. Every single day, without fail, Leo made the long trek up the hill to water his tiny seed. The other villagers watched him, some with curiosity, others with pity. "What a foolish boy," some would mutter, "trying to grow a forest from one seed in this wasteland." Leo heard their whispers, but he didn't let them discourage him. He believed in the seed's potential. He believed in his grandmother's stories. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The sun beat down. The winds howled, but Leo persisted. He protected the spot with a small circle of stones and sang songs to it, just as his grandmother had sung to him. Then one morning, something miraculous happened. Peeking out from the soil was a tiny green sprout, delicate but defiant. Leo's heart swelled with joy. He knelt down, his eyes wide with wonder. His seed had listened. It had awoken. The sprout was a tiny flag of hope planted in a sea of despair. News of the little green shoot spread through the village like wildfire. The villagers, who had once mocked him, now climbed the hill to see it for themselves. Seeing that small speck of life, standing so bravely against the odds, stirred something within them. It was a reminder of what they had lost and a symbol of what could be regained. An old carpenter, inspired by the boy's dedication, decided to help. He built a small, sturdy fence around the sapling to protect it from the harsh winds. A woman who owned the village's only well offered to share her water, making Leo's daily journey a little easier. Soon others joined in. One person brought nutrient-rich soil from the riverbed. Another helped clear away the rocks nearby. The small act of planting one seed had started a chain reaction. The sapling, nurtured by the collective care of the village, grew stronger and taller. As it grew, so did the hope in the villagers' hearts. They started to remember the old ways, the knowledge of how to care for the land that had been dormant for so long. Leo, seeing the change in his village, realized something profound. His single seed hadn't just been for a tree. It was a seed of change for the entire community. He traveled to the neighboring town and, using the few coins he had saved, bought a small bag of seeds. He returned and shared them with everyone. Now, instead of just one boy climbing the hill, the entire village worked together. They planted seeds along the riverbanks, on the barren slopes, and in their own backyards. Children, who had only known dust, now learned the joy of tending to a small plant. The elders, their eyes sparkling with renewed purpose, shared their long-forgotten knowledge of farming and forestry. Years passed. The single sapling on the hill grew into a mighty tree, its branches reaching towards the sky like open arms. And it was no longer alone. It stood as the heart of a young, thriving forest that now blanketed the hills. The river ran clearer, the air was cooler, and the sound of birdsong, once a distant memory, was now the villagers' morning anthem. The village was transformed. It was no longer a place of dust and despair, but a vibrant community, alive with greenery and laughter. And it all started with one boy, one small seed, and one simple act of faith. Leo, now a young man, would often stand under the shade of that first great tree, looking out at the green valley. He learned that you don't need to move mountains to change the world. Sometimes all it takes is the courage to plant one seed. One act of kindness, one brave decision, one small step forward is enough to begin. It can inspire others, awaken hope, and little by little grow into a forest of positive change that can transform everything. Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that aims to plant a seed of hope in your day. See you next time.